Continuing on our koshering of the kitchen for Pesach, so there are the grates that go over the fire on a stovetop. I'm not talking now about induction or really even electric. I'm talking about if you have a gas fire and the fire, on top of the fire you have these black grates. So how do you kosher them? So there are three opinions in the poskim that you see. One opinion I saw is that that you don't have to kosher it at all, because there's a din in Yeridea, which is yavesh b'yavesh ein b'neim roitev, that whenever you have two dry surfaces, no matter how hot they may be, two dry surfaces, one on top of the other, there's no transference from this to that, and that's perforce. The grate is perforce a dry surface because it's hot, and whenever you're going to have something hot on there, automatically it's drying it off. So there are many poskim that say that you don't have to kosher at all. There are poskim on the other side that say there's no way to kosher that. That's too complicated to kosher, because now I don't know why they're not concerned about the yavish, or why they're not makel in the yavish b'yavish everyday right, but it's like what they do say, which is probably correct, is that it's not necessarily covering the whole grate. Like in my house, I have big grates go over two burners, so there's parts in the middle. There's all kinds of parts that don't go into this category of yavish b'yavish everyday right. So there are those that say you have to leave it alone. You could just leave it alone. There's those that say that you have to do a libun gomer on it, and the easiest way to do that perhaps would be to put it in a self-cleaning oven if it's available to you, or else I'll give you another way in a minute. And there are those that say that it needs a libun kal. So libun kal would mean that you just turn on the stove for a few minutes and let it kasher. Now the Shulchan Aruch in Tuf Nun Aleph says the following, the Ramah, Chatsuva tzarech libun. A chatsuva needs libun. What is a chatsuva tzarech libun? What is a chatsuva? So a chatsuva comes from the word yatziv, a tripod. A chatsuva is a tripod. The Mishnah Berurah says, "Ukli sheyesh lo sholosh raglayim." It's a kli that has three. So what we're talking about is something like this here, which is, except that it has a stand for a pot, and then underneath it is a flame. So when we're thinking about a cooking situation of a couple hundred years ago, what we're talking about is a regular fire. Not you don't just turn on the gas. A regular fire. Now, how do you heat up the pot on that fire? So if you're making a campfire, you put it on the logs. But if you're sophisticated, you have a chatsuva, and the chatsuva is there holding up the pot. So what's the halacha? So the Rabbah says, Hilchos Pesach, chatsuva tzarech libun. That chatsuva, it's a metal tripod, that needs libun. So the Mishnah Berurah says as follows: Hukli, what's a chatsuva? Hukli sheyesh lo sholosh regolim, or raglayim rather, umamidim oleha kedera machvas v'tanur alaur kol hashana. As I just explained, it's very similar to the grates on our stove, isn't that? A very similar situation. And on this, the Ramah says that if you want to use that same tripod or stand on Pesach, you need libun b'ur, that's a libun gomer. Why? Nishbach oleha isa, because let's say you drop some dough on it, but nivla batam chametz al yedei ha'ur. So the case might be that you have some chametz gomer and you drop it onto the stand, and then the fire is heating it up, and now you have chametz. Says the Mishnah Berurah, zeh rak l'chatchila. That's only l'chatchila b'shum chuber the chametz. That's a special Pesach halacha. The be'emes, because in truth nothing can happen to that chatzuva. The be'emes shteg teres haloiges zoi bazoi ein yotzes hablia mizo lazo. Because once you have, as I explained, and this is in Siman Pei Tes in Yeridea and Siman Nun Ches in Yeridea, over and over again, you actually have the cloud that you need wet, rotav, you need between two things. This is fire. There's no rotav here, so there's no way that it can become treif or chametz to begin with. Kibavor b'Yoredei Siv Tzadik Beis. So I missed that one. Siv Zayin. V'yesh litloi she'afim nishbach far nisraf. And even if you'll say some chametz pasta fell on it, far nisraf, it was burnt. As it absorbed, it burnt. V'halachloi. They came we keep libun kal. So comes the Mishnah Berurah and he says hachra that this is really a chumrah that only should be on Pesach. And by the way, the Igros Moshe talks a lot about it in Yeridea Aleph Nun Tes as to whether you need separate burners for your milchiks and for your fleishiks, for instance, if you have two sides of the stove. So he maintains that all goes into this halacha of not really needing it. We can all be machmer, whatever we want to be machmer, but that you don't really need it because of this din of chatzuva. And he says it's beforish, quotes this with Shabur and Hilchos Pesach. It's beforish that's, if anything, that's only a chumrah for Pesach. Comes the Mishnah Berurah says, so what is the chumrah for Pesach? Dai b'zeh b'libud kal. You need a libud kal. Liba bakal is keboiloi kach poltei. Whatever it got, that's how you get it out. Ubediavad afim nishtamish b'li libun klal gam kain ein lesser. But don't worry about it if you go into somebody's house and you see that they never kashered their grates. They never did anything with it. Ein lesser doesn't hurt the beichel at all. I just want to add an explanation to this very brief explanation that even if you'll say that it did become a chametz stick, like even if you say it did become chametz stick, so now how does the chametz get into the Pesach pot? So in other words, you need a double chumrah here. One chumrah is that the Mishnah Berurah is talking about never becomes really a tray for chametz to begin with, because as it's heated up, it's dry. The heat dries it. It's just the physics of it. The heat dries it. Once it's dry, there's no transference. But even if you'll say the chumrah of Pesach is that, well, and the chumrah of Pesach means if you're going to start using vachadik or all year round the kalim, you're going to be mekel in Pesach. So a lot of people are very machmer on Pesach, even though it's not halachic, which is okay. But I'm asking you need still another chumrah here to say that now this chatzuva, let's say to use it even beis is somehow getting into the next pot that the Pesach top you're doing. So it really is a big chumrah. And on this, the Mishnah Berurah says you need a libud kal. So what do we do l'maisa? Tachlis is either you take those grates and you put them into the self-clean oven to be yotze the shitas that which is, I just saw Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky Shlita. Shmuel Kamenetsky says that he doesn't see any way to kasher those grates. That's what he writes there. So he says put them in the self-clean. That's his language. Put them in the self-clean. So that's one way of doing it. I think what the best way to do it, if you don't have a self-clean situation, is to take a blech some sort, which simply means you go to the store and you buy thick aluminum foil. They have like a very thick grade aluminum foil. You can actually, if you wanted to, you could cover your counters with that. It'll last a week. It's not like the aluminum foil. And just cover the 4 grates without cleaning it, without anything. You just cover the 4 grates. Do not cover the knobs because they will melt in the scenario that I'm suggesting. So you cover it until the knobs, whatever, the square, they're a 4 or 5 or however many grates you have. You turn them on under that aluminum foil. Within 5 minutes, it's dangerously hot. How do I know it's dangerously hot? Because if you'll put, let's say, any kind of flammable thing, a thread, a match, certainly, you just throw it on the blech, burns up right away. So after 5 minutes, because you have 4 fires underneath it, it's very hot. You don't have to do this for half an hour, and it's dangerous to do so. You just do this, and then everything underneath it is kasher. I have guaranteed that everything underneath it is not ruined. This is a different thing that you have to discuss with your manufacturer. But kasher it is, and that will take care of all of the different shitas, whether you don't have to kasher, obviously, or whether there's no way to kasher it with the libud kal. This will take care of it, and it will be kosher.